Oh, we've got a thumbs up there from Jake very quick tonight. So obviously, the sooner we get this started, the sooner we get out of here. Right, that's Jake Ellacott with a thumb. Good evening, Jake.
Evening, Dave. Evening, everyone.
And that's Lee Wood over there with the hair. Evening, Lee.
Indeed. There's one Dave and two Jakes. Oh, no, one of them's a football. Sorry, mate. Sorry, Jake. Whoa.
Yeah, one of them's useful.
Oh, goodness me.
How you doing, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, you know, not too bad. Had better weeks football-wise, but there you go.
Didn't see you at Concord on Tuesday.
Didn't see anyone at Concord on Tuesday.
Dave, anyway, even if it had been on.
Dave, I think you would have gone there if I hadn't told you.
I was hoping you were going to message me, Jake. As you know, I had one shoe on. I was ready to go out the door. I even had my sandwiches packed for a change. I wasn't going to leave them at home.
So did you not sort of think to sort of check the social media, Dave, to sort of find out the game was on, mate, at all? Or?
What's that?
You know, if the Concord game was on?
What social media?
Yeah. I thought it was anti-social. Anyway, right, we're going to look back on a game at Clarence Park last Saturday. St Albans City 0, Braintree 1, National League South. Crowd 1,200. I thought I announced 212 on the day, but I see it's now 219, so it's going up. We're just delaying talking about the game. I'll throw it over to you two. Let you start, Lee. What did you make of it?
What a belter. What an absolute belter. I mean, listen, this football club has made me cry. But when you make my daughter cry because we haven't scored, it's just absolutely abomination. Well, I've seen us play worse and get something from a game, boys. We weren't as bad as we were against Chesham. We were, you know, the movement was there and there's bits and space. But to be fair, we had one shot on target in the first half. And you can't win games if you go along that sort of like, you know, a mentality. I don't know. There's something missing, isn't there? Fundamentally missing. I spoke to Lee Harding halfway through the second half, and he said, look, our management, we were chomping at the bit to play you boys. And it is now the word is getting around the sort of league that although we've got some good players, we're there for the taking. Results just aren't going our way. And as such, confidence then dips. And the Braintree manager has told the chairman to look, these boys are, you know, we can have these things. We can have them on toast. And I'm not entirely sure they deserve to win the game, but it wasn't pretty. And but they worked hard for their win, Tavs, and it wasn't a good day for us.
You go along with that, Jake?
Well, I mean, one of the shirts has just fallen down, so that really does sort of sum it up. Yeah, I mean, performance-wise, it was an improvement on Ebbsfleet, but overall, the result was it's just so poor. On here, we talked about how much we needed a response, didn't we? And it just didn't really come. I'd say the players weren't awful, and the Braintree goal, there was an air of luck about it to some extent, but at the same time, it shouldn't be happening. But overall, it wasn't the response we expected. And anyone that does have social media, if you go back to Neil Metcalf's Twitter feed, about 3-4 hours before the game, he tweeted a really good sort of Twitter thread of what he expected from the Saints today. And that's from a neutral perspective from Neil, demanding, you know, saying how much he demanded a response and they really should turn over a side like Braintree. And the Saints just didn't turn up, really, did they? You know, one shot on target against a side that are second bottom, just not acceptable, is it? And as you say, Lee, there's something really basic missing from the team at the minute. I mean, I don't exactly know what it is. I don't know what area of the pitch, probably midfield, you could argue, but there's just something that's not clicking.
You said there, Lee, about Braintree possibly didn't deserve to win it if you go for chances. And let's face it, cheerio, Jake. Let's face it, the chances they got, the goal they got was from MJ, unfortunately chucking one in. But we're not going to have a go at him after what he's done for us this season. But we certainly didn't deserve to win it either. As one of you mentioned there, we only had one shot on target, so we were no threat either. But had 0-0 written all over it for the second time this season. And I think the finger is pointed at the midfield. We're just not creating.
We're not creating, and we're not imposing ourselves on the game. And the less we do that, the more it gives the opposition chance to sort of impose themselves. You spoke about MJ there, mate. Absolutely. You know, we won't be throwing any players underneath the bus. Unfortunately, he'll be remembered for the one save he didn't make, rather than the ones he did. because he made 2 fantastic saves later on in the game. But it's no good, though, if you're sort of making mistakes like that. But again, he's been one of our players of the entire season. Really disappointed about Ian's post-match comments about how the game went. Got a lot of time for Ian, and I have to say he's been a fantastic manager. But calling out the fans when you're regularly serving up the quality of football that the club have been for well over a month, so very, very naive. And, you know, it's sort of covering up the limitations of the squad to date. You know, he can't blame the players because he's going to lose whatever left of the dressing room he's got. He can't blame the coaches. He can't blame the owners. So who else is there to blame? You know, all right, he can shelve some of it himself, but he can only sort of do that once or twice before it becomes fall on deaf ears. Going after the fans, very, very dangerous. There's only one absolute in football, and that is the supporters. When you start calling them out, that's a very, very path to go down, because although supporters do forgive, they don't forget.
For those of you who haven't seen the post-match interview, Ian Anderson and David Noble both picked up on the fans booing. Now, I didn't hear any booing during the game. Did either of you?
Not during the game. I don't know about you, Lee, but behind the goal, to be honest, it was the kids just acting up, which I think we'll touch upon in a bit in their behaviour last week. But support-wise for the team, I didn't really hear anything, at all. And I don't know if they heard anything from behind the dugouts, possibly in the main stand.
That's where it's got to come from, Jake, isn't it?
Yeah, because and we know
that's
that
our media team, Ben. Chuck them out.
Having done the media in the main stand previous seasons, I know that there can be a few vocal supporters that do like getting on Ian's back at times when the team isn't playing well from that main stand. But from the rest of the ground, I didn't really notice anything at all. I mean, at the end, I don't think a lot of supporters clapped. And I think that's the only sort of, opposition the players received at the end. And I think it's understandable because, as you say, Lee, the Saints have not been putting in good performances. We wanted a performance. We wanted a result. The Saints, lost 5-0 on Tuesday night. Good number of Saints fans travelled. Again, really good support on Saturday. A bigger crowd than I think many expected for it. And on the whole, the Saints fans got behind the team and the Saints players didn't perform. So, as you say, really does surprise me because got a lot of time for Ian and I think he's been a fantastic manager. And we know that he's a fantastic bloke.
He is a fantastic manager. And the one thing as well, which I don't quite get, is those supporters who are volunteers as well, they come out on social media saying, just support the club. There's no need for any of this. Having that sort of mindset when you are happy that you've lost a game and just content to be poodling along, that attitude is defeatist in itself, okay? Please don't mistake people's frustrations for lack of support. It's because we support the club that we are frustrated. And, we're, again, not need to sound like I'm repeating myself, but it's a results business or it's a performance business. At the minute, we're getting neither. Surely no one at the club can absolutely justify the fact that supporters aren't allowed to have their opinion, especially on the run of results we are.
Yeah.
The only criticism I heard, there was a chant a couple of times it went up, we want our team back, which I take as being the younger supporters upset because Alex Lancashire isn't in the side, which is fair enough. I'm maybe to say that. But also in the interview, but Ian banged on about booing after only 2 bad results, 2 successive defeats. Well, it's a 5-0 defeat where we put up no resistance whatsoever and a 1-0 home defeat against a side bottom but 1 in the table. But it's not just those 2 games. You go back quite a long way. I've got some stats here. We scored 3 times in 6 games, 4 in 8 games if you take out the Hart Senior Cup. What have we done? We've won 4 in 13 in the league and 3 in 12 in all competitions. And much of that game, that run, Lee touched on it there, football hasn't been good. We've been negative. That is a problem. Our strength early in the season was when we attacked, and we're not doing it. We're too reluctant to go forward. We see defenders in front of us, we turn around and go back again, start all over again. Well, we're not going to score if the centre half or the goalkeeper have got the ball. There's other things I'm going to come on to here as well. But that if supporters are thinking about booing, well, they've got reasons there to do it. And also, you've got to remember, we are still the most expensive club in our division for watching football. So if you're not producing, you're going to get hammered for it.
Yeah, I mean, we have to be honest. Like Lee said, and it is a cliche, but football is all about opinions. And these supporters, whether they're paid on the day, paid a season ticket, half season ticket, deserve to have a right to express their opinions in the correct way, be it at the game or on social media. And everything I saw on social media after the game from a lot of supporters was, can't believe what's Ian saying, you know, really surprised. But none of it was in a vitriolic way. It was all, you know, managed in a way that supporters are allowed to. You cannot restrict opinions about football performances. And the bare facts are that we lost to the side that are second bottom when we're meant to be going for a top 7 finish. And we were second again. We were second in the league when we took on Forest Green back in November. And where are we now? And what are our performances like now? And of course, fans are going to be frustrated, and they have every right to be frustrated. But as we've all touched upon, the supporters at Clarence Park on Saturday were not that frustrated at the end. It could have been much more vocal. The Saints fans are still getting behind the team during the game. So the comments really do surprise me.
Let's get back to a team. When we're in a game like that, we've spoken about it so many times in recent weeks. When it's not going right, you look to the bench. And what do we have on the bench on Saturday? Zane Banton. We got him on. Should have got him on at half time, in my opinion. Not wait until 20 minutes from the end. Too late. And David Noble was on the bench. Now, he came in the interview himself. He said, I'm about 10 days away from starting a game. So does that mean he was fit to play Saturday or not? It sounds to me like he wasn't. So what on earth was he doing on the bench? And we'll come to that in a minute as well. And also, Michael Weiss, they said in there, Ian said in there, he's been carrying an injury for 6 weeks. Well, what are Weiss and Nobby doing there if they're not that fit to play? And it comes to a lack of investment in the squad, which I know we're going to look at as well.
But Nobby was never going to be fit, was he? Because he's not played in how long now? And the preview for the game last Saturday said he would be in the squad, potentially, but that he hadn't featured for the B team, whereas it had explained that Michael Clark had played quite a few minutes for the B team. So you got a sense that Michael Clark would potentially get involved. But Nobby is not going to be. You know, he's 40 years old. He's not played in however long now. He is going to be some time away. You know, he's still a good player, but, and we mentioned substitutions there, and we touched upon the midfield quickly. When Kyron Wiltshire was forced off at half time, I think a lot of supporters thought, okay, this game is not going to go our way. Because again, goes to the depth that you mentioned, Dave. We just do not have the players to come in and step in and perform like the likes of Kyron Wiltshire has had to do Monday or Saturday and Tuesdays for however long now.
Well, we're going to move on to the summer signings during the season, because supporters have been on about it. We've needed signings all through the seasons. So we did a bit of research early in the week. During the season, Ian's made various signings during his time at the club, which is quite a long time now. It's a good record, as you said. During his first full season, during the season, not the summer, he made 7 signings. Next season, 8, 7 next one. In the 2019-20 season, it was 12. So far this season, he's made just 5 signings during the season. That includes Joe Neal, who hasn't played for us yet, joined us last week, and 3 loan signings. So we've got all this money, and it shows we have not invested in that side, which is why we're now struggling to put out 11 fit players.
Which is exactly why I found it frustrating and upsetting that Ian launched his frustrations out on the fans, the ones that are paying the money to come and watch this. It's, you know, nothing is quite what it seems in non-league football, is it? We don't really know the level of conversations that are happening behind the scenes. Although, to be fair, we did get heads up that Joe Neal was heading our way over a week ago now. Yeah, I mean, Joe Neal, good prospect. But Ian has historically not been particularly forthcoming in thrusting mid-season signings into the equation. But to be fair, given the situation, he might not have a lot of choice in the matter now, because if we keep going along the results that we have been doing, then we could be, you know, staring at the wrong end of the table, let alone worrying about the games in hand. And if we win the 3 games in hand, we're not winning games now, so don't worry about the games in hand. It's weird because Ian does like a little bit of a delve into the transfer market, and a 6-day approach is they're regular, you know. I don't know what it is, fellas. I don't know whether there was a reluctance. I don't know. It can't be an availability. issue. I mean, there's enough players out there who would want to come and play, you'd have thought, for St Albans City. But maybe it's just stone-headed stubbornness in terms of the club. You know, let's have faith in the players that have got this far. Well, that's fine, but look where they're taking us now.
Joe Neal is 21 years old, joins us from Biggleswade Town. They've recently changed manager. I think Robbie O'Keefe's taken over there, so having a bit of a clear out of players. And after 14 games without a win, no great surprise. Cambridge United youth player. He's had spells with Royston Town, Needham Market and St Neots Town. And a former City player told me he was going to sign for us last week, and he's seen him play, and he rates him quite highly. So Ian might have unearthed a good one there with a bit of luck.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard good things, haven't we, Lee? I think he scored, 11 goals this season, and we need that backup for sure, don't we? And by all accounts, Joe was on trial with a National League side not so long ago. So, you know, he's highly rated from what I understand, and I think it'll be a good signing. And also, I think the other shirt wasn't happy with this discussion about us not signing, because that's gone as well.
Mate, the ball's going to be falling over in a minute.
Yeah, so it's a much needed addition. But again, there's a very obvious area of the team that needs further depth. But, you know, we mentioned why are they not signing. I think it's a mixture of maybe some people not wanting the club to spend too much, potentially wanting to rely on the academy. But also, I think we do have to, and we discussed this last week, stuff like agents. I think in the modern game, when you've got a club that's coming in, that's got all this FA Cup money, I think, you know, agents and players are going to be wanting a bit more than they maybe would. But should the Saints allow that to get in the way of a top 7 finish? Arguably not, even if it means just signing 1 or 2 players.
Without signing a player, we sort of remedied the right back position last week. Michael Clark returned, and I thought he had a good return.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree. Yeah,
Clarkie's really kicked on, hasn't he? You know, last season he played really well. The only thing holding him back is injuries. But every time he's come back in, he's looked really good. I'm just hoping they haven't rushed him back too soon again, like they had to against Dulwich back in November, whenever it was. But as you say, he got through Saturday and he looks good. And hopefully, I think we've needed him, and hopefully he'll be back at his best.
But regardless of agents, as we've mentioned before, we still need that midfield sorted out. It's got to be strengthened.
Yeah, absolutely.
It seems to me, boys, as though, well, it doesn't seem to be a lot of people around us as well, Jake, and you'll back me up. We don't have a good plan B. So if plan A isn't working, there just seems to be, well, let's keep persevering with that. Oh, shit, we lost. Let's keep persevering with that. Oh, shit, we lost again. And, you know, there's only so much times you can bang your head against a brick wall. Why not try it up? You know, why not try a different formation? Come on and play Zane in that, you know, in that false 9 or whatever it is. But there's something has to change, because if you're going to keep persevering with this one formation, and yes, okay, there's changes of personnel and this, that, and the other, that's fine. But teams are working us out. They did it when we had Reece Williamson up front. They did it when we had Theo up front. They did it when we had Joey Ciafano up front. Teams find us out. So we've got to add something new to the equation in order to get us back to winning ways.
On the opposition, one of our old boys last Saturday, an old buddy of yours, Jake, or one of your favourites, Carl da Costa.
He didn't have a great game, did he? I think we'll call it nondescript. Yeah, it was quite a surprise when I was sat in the Crown, saw the team, and I was like, Carl da Costa. Apparently he'd been released by Dover, hadn't he? So I like Carl. I thought he did well for us, but he's not quite pulling up the trees that I think he was planning to. But then, to be honest, you know, maybe not Carl himself, but I think, you know, someone like a winger like that, energetic in the sort of him or Sean Lucian mould, wouldn't have gone amiss in a team like this season. But yeah, hi, Carl.
It's funny, isn't it? It's easy to get doom and gloom. But this coming Saturday, we're at Champion Hill away to Dulwich Hamlet. One assumes it's going to be their 7th sellout crowd of the season, 3,334, quite amazing. But should we win there, we're back in the playoff positions, and we've got at least 1 game in hand on some clubs and 2 on other clubs. It's not looking so bad, but we're going into it with a 5-0 defeat. We're going in with a defeat at home to a side bottom but 1. We've recently got done 3-0 at home by a team from a lower league. He's clutching at straws almost to say, well, if we win, we're back in the playoffs, isn't it?
I think Ian and co would have been quite glad of Tuesday's game against Concord being called off, because it gave them another night to get, you know, some injured players back and get a bit of training and ready for Saturday. Because we know what Dulwich are like. That game at Clarence Park, it was blooming brilliant, wasn't it? Really, what a game! Probably best game of the season, bar Forest Green, I'd say, entertainment-wise. And the Saints should have won it, but we saw, the amount of times that Dulwich cut us open, especially during the first half, with some really simple balls over the top. We know what they're going to try and do again on Saturday. So Ian has really got to drill into that defence and the midfield really to protect the defence of what is needed on Saturday. And it's going to be really tough. But as we said, win and suddenly things look rosy. And I think that's the infuriating thing, isn't it? We are so close to being well within the top 7, but we're just not picking up the results.
Well, I'm looking at Dulwich, right? They are a footballing side, or they try to play football, and that may play into our hands. Give us a little bit more time on the ball and try and win the game that way. Try and pick that pass. We've got players who like to play. Have a look up. They've got time. Maybe that's going to play into our hands. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. We're going to take quite a large following down, as we always do at Champion Hill, and hopefully we can come away with 3 points.
Well, they're not in the best of form either. I know last 3 games they played, both been away, all been away from home. 2 of them they've won. They played 14 league games since that great game down the park you've already mentioned, of which they've only won 4 and they've lost 6 of them. So they're up and down as well. They've lost 8 games, the same as us, but they played 3 games more. No, none of our old boys there, I don't think. It's one where we can't afford to not be knocked back any further, can we? It's got to stop this run, isn't it?
Yeah, the rot has got to stop as soon as possible. And Saturday's a perfect chance to do it, isn't it? Away from home, our record generally is better away from home this season. Put in a performance like we saw at Havant. But again, we keep mentioning this. All we want to see is the Saints fight for it, battle for it. And if you fight for it on Saturday in front of, a decent crowd, it won't be the most vocal of home crowds. We know Dulwich is more of a day out than a sort of football ground, isn't it, these days? But you'll have vocal away support from the Saints fans. Just fight for it, win those challenges, and you've got half a chance. And we've got to bounce back somewhere, haven't we? Surely we're going to avert the awful run. And why not be Saturday? And Joe Neal will score a hat trick, and maybe we'll sign a central midfielder tonight or tomorrow morning. Who knows? But of course, all this is weather pending. Hopefully, Champion Hill is still standing by Saturday morning. But yeah. Great chance, hopefully.
Well, if we do win, it'd be 6 points in a few days for us, because we've got to give me 3 points next Tuesday, haven't we?
Oh, I totally forgot that.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I'll joke. I've just seen there, Jake, that you're necking pints of gin, mate, which is probably why where your exuberance has come from, mate. But this is the sort of game. These 2 games, these are sorts of games when we can just pull a result out of the bag, out of nowhere. Derby games, we don't go into these games particularly, based on form, because that form goes out of the window. But you've got to look at these games and get excited. The players have got to get excited. Dulwich against St Albans and Hemel against St Albans, 2 games where you'd circle. There'd be really 2 games of football for different reasons. So let's focus forward. Let's be positive. And then hopefully we can get a positive result somewhere out of those 2.
It's been easy for us to have a bit of fun at Hemel's expense this season, because they were so poor earlier. They're miles behind. They might as well have been playing Sunday League football. But now, if it goes wrong for us at Dulwich on Saturday, they get a win at home to Concord, they're only 1 point behind. What a game that makes it next Tuesday at Vauxhall Road.
I can't believe we went there. Jake, can you believe that? Can't believe we went there.
I can't believe. I can't believe we've got to go to Vauxhall Road on Tuesday night. Oh.
Have you had your jabs? That's all you need.
Which ones?
Anything, mate. You just need total protection across the board.
But I mean, to be fair, Hemel haven't got the greatest record on their 3G, have they? So again,
it's picked up.
It's picked up, but we've got to fancy ourselves. I know the form has been poor, but we've got to go into both of these games confident. And I hope that Ian and management are filling the team with a lot of confidence ahead of these 2, because there's no point feeling sorry for ourselves, is there? As the playing squad, they are paid to go out there and perform for St Albans City, and they cannot be feeling sorry for themselves ahead of Saturday or Tuesday.
What about Clarence Park? If you're in that main stand, we discussed this a lot at the start of the season, your view is obscured. Now, you can start and do it on the other side of the pitch. You saw it Saturday. Obviously, there's that concrete area by the corner flag. There's a new refreshment hut going up there. So anybody who stands in that corner, well, you've got to move now, sunshine. You're going to see less of the pitch. You can understand it. It's convenient and it's easy to crowds congestion in the York Road entrance where the food and bar and whatnot is. But it's another bit of the beauty of Clarence Park gone.
I'll tell you what, if we ever get a manager who likes to play with proper wingers, well, we're going to be buggered, aren't we? Because they'll be running into the patio areas at some point. I mean, it is what it is, boys. If this is the worst we're sort of talking about, then
well, yeah,
you know.
I like Dave said, I think it would be good because it will ease the congestion in the Hatfield Road corner, because that is quite difficult to walk through sometimes. There's about 4 different queues across it, so I think ideally you would have been able to put something in the opposite corner where the mural is, but there's a mural there we can't touch now, so we can't put anything there. So as you say, Dave, it's not the most beautiful, is it? And it's not going to look much better when it's got the big green crate there. But you know, it improves the experience. It's getting people down at Clarence Park. People are coming down, crowds are up, and the owners have said, you know, to be self-sustainable at Clarence Park 3-4 years ago, what it needs to be crowds of 900,000. They're beating that in a minute.
Jake, crowds are up, mate, but they're not happy about it, are they? Because no, but I'm saying,
yeah,
we were going to come on to this. So the club have created a culture now where they've identified the younger supporters. Okay, that's what all of our social media outlay has been geared towards. Yeah, getting more younger supporters in. A lot of these kids have associated with City Youth. Yeah, now these are the ones that are smashing up the club signage when things aren't going well. These are the ones that are demanding, can we have our club back, even though they've only been there for 5 months? These are the ones that are chanting the homophobic abuse on a regular basis. But the thing is, the club have got to accept some sort of responsibility now, because they've created this culture, yeah, with, you know, the flashy gifts and the wallpaper Wednesdays and all of this. So you've bypassed actual club news where people can benefit from knowing what's going on and in the club. This is now it. So you've now got a couple of hundred young fans who enjoy the match day, but also enjoy some very unsavoury comments. And it has to stop, because, yes, getting fans in is all well and good, Jake, but you've got to get the right quality of fans in, mate. And the club needs to address this situation going forward, because there were people, and I can give you names if the club wants to come and speak to me, about who were not happy and walked out because of the quality of the chanting on Saturday afternoon.
I have to say, I thought Saturday, chanting-wise and just general behaviour was probably the worst we've had at Clarence Park this season. We've quite, you know, and this is the sad thing, isn't it? It's not the first time this season. We've had quite a few incidents, mainly earlier in the season, and they were quite bad. But Saturday was particularly awful. And I mean, if I was to bring any friends or family or my girlfriend, I would not feel comfortable at the minute standing behind the goal, because it is awful. As you say, just ripping down signs was a bizarre new start that they're doing now. Really weird. The homophobic chanting, not the first time, really, really disappointing, especially when the club is meant to be a community club. And me and Lee, you know, we helped support LGBTQ plus sort of campaigns, didn't we, during our time at the club? And we know the club still supports all that. To hear that is absolutely awful. And again, there's not been anything from the club to address it this week, has there, publicly? I know the trust is raising it, because the trust has received a number of complaints this week about the behaviour. But it is just so poor. We're meant to be a community club, but when you hear that sort of stuff, it really does spoil it, doesn't it? And it's just unacceptable. And I know that the whole of the National League South does have stewarding issues at the minute. I know clubs are really struggling to get stewards.
We've got stewards, Jake.
But that's the thing. The stewards were there. They didn't do anything really apart from take the signs off and apparently the club has a drum that the supporters broke as well, took the drum off them. And I know a couple of other supporters that we were stood near shouted at the stewards, asking them if they were going to do anything. But there just didn't seem to be at all. And it is, if the stewards are not doing anything on a match day, then what can the club do during the rest of the week? Because there's no other way to identify them unless picking them out when they're doing it.
It's simple. So it's literally fans at all costs. You want to pack the park. They want about packing the park, being that number and all those. brilliant, no problem with that. Pack the park and then just deal with the aftermath? Or do you go about literally policing this situation on a match-by-match basis, get the stewards in the bloody stands, stand next to these people, and they will stop. And if they don't stop, turf them out. Because I tell you what, that'll be the last time I take my little girl, who was born in this city, to her hometown team, hearing that. It's absolutely... And you know what? The owners were made aware. The owners were made aware, and their response was, I didn't hear it. Fair enough. Do they hear what they want to hear? Who knows? But it was addressed to them. Do your jobs. Get the stewards to steward and protect the safety of the fans. And that includes homophobic chanting, fellas.
Yeah, it's just totally unacceptable, isn't it? And as we said, it's not the first time. Why isn't it being cracked down upon already? You can't be letting it keep happen. And especially when they're damaging Clarence Park as well, it's just unbelievable, really. And the club at the start of the season put all these boards up saying zero tolerance, etc., etc., and that is a good message. But has it been acted upon yet? No. I think the club should absolutely address it publicly, because it needs to address it. Most casual supporters behind the stand, they won't know what the club is doing about it. Otherwise, will they? They will not hear how it's being fixed.
Jake, talk is cheap. Signs are cheap. Reputations of football clubs that have been going absolute centuries are not. This has to stop, and it has to be directed now. Otherwise, things are going to get worse.
Yeah, we've seen it many times in recent years. Games against Hemel, when the flares went off, was action ever taken on the day? No, it never is. It's got to now, though, because as you say, you can't continue going as it is. We've got a reputation, and we've got to correct it.
Absolutely. It's Hemel, those games they were always a one-off, weren't they? But this is repeated continuation of it. Recent weeks maybe not as bad, but then thinking about it happened against Cheshunt. Bottles were thrown at their goalkeeper on that match day. So it really has continued, and the club has to do something. And I know the trust is raising it. I think they had a meeting today or earlier this week, and hopefully the club will take some actions from that.
It amazes me how Ian and Nobby can hear a few boos behind him, but they can't hear a couple of hundred fans singing homophobic chanting. It is amazing. It is bewildering that this is continuing to go on. And Jake, you said yourself there, mate, there were people shouting down these boys on Saturday. And look, no one wants to sit there and be a cantankerous old bastard and sit there and stop people from having a good time. I'm going to leave that to Tavs, but ultimately, this is a whole nother level. And again, there were families, Jake, back me up, mate, there were families walking out behind us because they just didn't want to, admittedly, I don't think they were quite impressed with the quality of football on show either, but it was just a collective, the vibe behind the goal, the football, weather wasn't great, and it was just right. Come on, let's just go. And you know what? I'll be impressed if they return anytime soon.
Yeah, it totally ruined the match day. I thought behind the goal, the behaviour absolutely awful. Doesn't make us a community club, which is what we're meant to be. And it's just so harmful to the reputation. So the club has got to do something now.
Right. So they are hoodlums, Jake. Not only tore down signs, but as we've seen, they've torn down your shirts. Right, prediction for Saturday, Jake?
Oh no. 2-1 Saints.
And Tuesday at Hemel?
3-1 Saints.
Of course. Lee?
I think we draw on Saturday. 1-1 score draw. And I think we win against Hemel. I think we win. I'm going to go for cheeky 2-0. Why not?
Good stuff. Let's hope next week, then, all we've got to talk about is football. Wouldn't that be great?
I have to say, it'll be absolutely really interesting to get fans' views on what we spoke about in the last 40 minutes. Please do get in touch, because if you think we're wrong, then we can discuss that as well, because this is just a podcast. These are three, independent supporters who are just relaying what they see. Get in touch. Let us know your thoughts, because if you are genuinely as upset as we are, then the more evidence we've got, the more fans that have their voice, then hopefully the club will be more obliged to sort of change it going forward. Jake, do you want to give them the Twitter handle, my friend?
Yeah, it's at a Podful of Saints on Twitter. Send us a tweet, or you can send us a direct message as well if you want to do it privately. And you've got their email as well, which Dave will share. So Yeah,
and we're going to put out Tabs' mobile number as well along the bottom. So it's do feel free to call him at any time, day or night.
I think we're planning to have a plane fly across Clarence Park soon, aren't we? With it sort of out the back, sort of, you know, ring Tabs on this number.
Just get some stickers, mate.
I'd
Don't worry about spending.
I'd be happy if somebody rang at me, make a change.
I understand you're getting the booze train to Dulwich on Saturday, David.
Don't. No? Yeah, I am. I'm
You are
going to train. Yeah,
you get the party train with us
because it makes it impossible for you to drive into London. So yeah, I'm getting on to the train.
Also, Mr. Tavener's views do not reflect that of Mr. Wood or Mr.
This is not a political podcast.
No.
Well, it does sound it sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh dear me. Well, hopefully Saturday is on, weather pending.
And if you see us, come and say hello.
It's going to be interesting. With the storms coming on Friday, some clubs are going to suffer some damage, aren't they? There's no two ways about it.
Well, one fan did sort of message us earlier, didn't they, Lee, asking if the new coverings behind the stands will be, or behind the goals will still be there Saturday morning. Hopefully our friend Muddy has secured it.
They were made with love, them stands, mate. Not a lot else, but they were made with love.
If you haven't listened to Muddy's podcast discussion we did with him a couple of weeks ago, listen back. He was basically talking to everyone about it in the Crown before the game on Saturday. Apparently he's raved about it on Radio Verulam the other week. So go give it a watch, and the rest of the series as well. Hopefully we'll get some more in the next couple of weeks as well. Get some people on to waffle on about the Saints.
Well, the wins could cause thousands of pounds worth of improvements at Vauxhall Road, couldn't they? Right.
And on that note, well,
it's Saturday, boys.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, everyone. And
see you on the train.
We'll see you very soon.
Bring your wallet.
Bye-bye.